is I've also got this room mic. This is a mic that was set up in the middle of the room, usually just to make it easier to talk to the musicians in the room, because they can hear you in their headphones, but unless they have a mic to talk to you, you can't hear what they're saying, right? But a cool thing about room mics is that they sound kind of neat for drums most of the time, because if you're playing music in a live band and the guitars are nice and isolated, the vocals are nice and isolated, the bass is nice and isolated, well, that room mic is a drum mic now, right? But I can do things like I can apply another dynamics processor to this room mic called a compressor that actually does the opposite of what we did with the gate. Well, here, I'll just do it. So with a gate, remember we set a threshold, and if the signal was above that level, above that threshold, the gate opens up. And if it's below that threshold, the gate closes. A compressor kind of works the opposite of that. You set a threshold level, and if the signal comes in above that threshold level, the compressor turns it down. If the signal comes in below that threshold level, it lets it out just unaffected. So what it has the effect of doing is reducing the dynamic range. It makes the loud parts quieter, and then you can apply gain and make the quiet parts louder. Your ear actually does this on its own whenever you're in a loud space. There's actually a little muscle inside your eardrum that tightens up on your eardrum, makes it harder to move the eardrum. So loud sounds aren't quite as loud as if that muscle wasn't tightening up. But because we have that in our heads, sounds that sound compressed, it's a psychoacoustic thing. They sound louder, they sound more intense, just because the dynamics are more even, because if we were in a loud environment, that's what would be happening. So I can make that happen on purpose using signal processing to trick our brains into thinking it sounds more exciting. So I'm going to just put a compressor on this particular track. And a favorite one of mine for this is this one here called Impact. Well, actually, let's not do Impact. Let's go with Smack. As you can guess by the name of this particular processor, it's not designed to be subtle. Smack. It's not like, oh, just lightly touching you. No, it's a fairly aggressive, brutal sounding processor, which is going to help us out when we're trying to get this artificially exciting sound. So I'm going to really clamp down on it here. And even apply some distortion. So this, if you actually listen to it, it's not any louder than this, but it sounds more aggressive. It sounds louder because it's got this pumping, really rhythmic action that's accentuated by the over-compression. And because I've already got my dry drums, I'm actually going to just really punish it. And now, if I blend in that over-compressed signal with my dry drums, it sounds more exciting, it sounds more hyped. So without it, with it accentuates the rhythm that the drummer is playing. Because of that, you can hear the compressor clamping down and opening up. It kind of gives the drummer a little bit more of a groove than they actually had. Any questions or anything else you guys want to know about? Anyone want to come up and touch some faders? You look at it, you might want to, right? Sure. Yeah. So why don't you, here, let me actually just rearrange the stuff here so it's easier for you, because there's a lot that we're not actually using. Oh yeah, and this is completely reconfigurable. I can make it show different channels, and there's some of the stuff that I was doing with a mouse you can actually do with this as well. But it's a little complicated and kind of looks fumbly if you don't really know what's happening. So I tend to like to use it for the things that it's best at. Yeah, like it's a lot easier to move a fader here than it is to move a fader like this. So I use this for the faders and stuff. But so right now I've got the kick. This aux 1 is my, I'll call that sub. The snare, the overhead mics, the room, and the reverb. So why don't you, using just up to these 6 faders here, why don't you try to build a mix yourself?
Oh boy, this is gonna be.
And as you're doing that, yeah, you can sit down. You see in the center of the screen, right at the top, there's that blank space there.
Yeah.
When you push those up, you'll see that it's now a meter.
Yeah.
At the very top, you want to be conscious of your meters. You don't. If you turn this down, I can make this so loud that it's actually too loud on my meters, right? But that's not what I want to do, because that'll actually introduce distortion, and not the good kind, the bad kind, into our mix. So if it's too quiet for you, turn it up instead of mixing too loud.
Right.
So take a look at your meters as you're setting your levels.
And
so can you hear the snare coming up, the cymbals coming down, etc.? Oh, and the reverb's only going to happen if you have other things up.
oh, okay.
So like, there's a little bit of reverb on the snare, but now there's no reverb because the snare turned down. Likewise, there's a little bit of reverb on the overheads.
So can you add reverb to the kick drum?
You certainly can. Here, why don't you take your mouse here. This is called a send. This is what we're using to add the reverb here. So click right there underneath where it says bus 3. Go to bus, and go to drum verb. The stereo one. Okay. And now your level pops up there. Where's your mouse? Or, if you want to use the Surface to do it, here, check it out. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. There we go. That's the amount of kick drum in the reverb. Right now it's 0. As you turn this up. Right, so that's obviously way too much. And a lot of people forget that a kick drum, when it comes to reverb, a lot of people forget that a kick drum is part of the drum set. It should probably sound like it's in the same room, right? Typically, we do like our kick drums to be drier than everything else because it's such a rhythmic foundation. You can kind of smear the rhythm if you do too much kick in the reverb. Why don't you try bringing up, just turning this knob so you get the amount of reverb that you think sounds right.
Not noticing too much of a difference.
Turn up more. There you go.
Oh, okay. There it is.
One thing I would probably avoid doing is putting any of the sub in the reverb. That would probably start to sound muddy. But this attack, absolutely. And what you can do also is, just bring the mix up, right? You can hear what it sounds like with the kick in and out of the reverb in context. By just clicking this knob turns that off. And clicking it again